I'm not new to the hero shooter genre, having pumped well over 1,000 hours into Overwatch since its 2016 release. And it's hard not to feel like 2016 is exactly when Marvel Rivals was meant to be a thing. I should have been eagerly awaiting its launch while mourning the loss of Harambe, witnessing a low point in English football at the hands of Iceland, and crucially, riding the high of watching Captain America Civil War. That said, what we're getting in 2024 is a very fun hero shooter that I've had a great time with thanks to a chunky roster of varied heroes, as well as some solid maps and modes. What remains to be seen, however, is whether Rivals will find a fervent fanbase like both Blizzard and Marvel did all those years ago, a task most hero shooters have struggled with recently. But with a high level of care in each of its comic book characters, exciting combat for all skill levels, and a relatively generous free-to-play model, Rivals is doing all it can to buck that trend. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, just ask Taskmaster, and it's not out of line to say the footprints of Overwatch really can be seen everywhere you step in Marvel Rivals. It's 6v6 ensembles of tank, damage and support equivalent classes, here called Vanguard, Duelist and Strategist respectively, battle it out in the familiar escort and point capture modes that become hero shooter staples. You'll either be pushing Marvel-themed payloads through familiar locales like Wakanda, preventing them from reaching their destination, or battling for possession of a contested zone in the center of a map. There's no reinvention of the wheel going on here, but these are battle-tested tug-of-war modes that act as an effective vehicle for Rivals' superpowered action. Look, I know I'm banging on a bit about Overwatch here in a Marvel Rivals review, but it doesn't take more than a match to see why for yourself. Even its menus and UI bear a resemblance to Blizzard's hero shooters as uncanny as the X-Men. But while not being the most original, it's hard to bemoan some of the hero designs, seeing as many are simply following fun archetypes with roots stretching all the way back to Team Fortress 2. It's also really nice to see superhero character designs that understand and embrace their comic book origins, rather than the Suicide Squad approach of handing everyone assault rifles. And what seems like simple imitation at first can sometimes reveal itself to be more inspired beneath the surface. Psylocke's mutated mixture of up-close and ranged damage options are flashy and fun, as is Healer DPS Hybrid Cloak and Dagger's shape-shifting suite of tricks. And Loki's complex decoy-centered systems are a challenge to manage on the battlefield. It's pretty impressive to launch with a roster as large as 33 and for very few, if any, to feel completely redundant, with a good mix of faces seen from match to match.
Maximum pulse! Nobody can hang with the pulse cannon.
While none are completely redundant picks, I've not enjoyed many of the tanky Vanguard heroes I've tried out yet, as they largely rely on getting stuck in where the action can get a bit chaotic as colour and noise floods the screen. They each play more like DPS heroes with bigger health bars, rather than valuable anchors that help the team secure a point. It's early days, but so far there appears to be a lack of emphasis placed on positioning and map awareness in general, instead of putting the focus on taking enemies on head first. On the whole, that means Vanguards are a collection of painfully slow-moving targets that can deal damage, but act just as effectively as giant damage sponge distractions. Thankfully, the majority of the roster plays much better. I've been having a great time with Punisher's chattering turret that rips through enemies, Winter Soldier's hard-hitting hand cannon, and close quarters cybernetic arm which prove a deadly duo, and Hawkeye's signature bow and arrow toolkit, complete with a highly satisfying headshot pinging sound effect. Look, I loved it with Hanzo, and I love it here. I've also been enjoying dashing around as Star-Lord. He's an exciting glass cannon that, thanks to his stripped-down moveset of dual SMGs and a speed boost coupled with a small health bar. Developer NetEase has a few other nifty tricks up its sleeve to make Rivals play just a little differently to hero shooters that have come before. Chief among those are team-up abilities.
Got something that needs to be blasted?
For example, when Star-Lord is paired with Adam Warlock, he's granted a self-revive on a long cooldown. These passive and active combos are a clever twist, and so far feel nicely balanced between momentum shifters when used correctly, without becoming complete game changers that make you feel like a slave to them when choosing heroes or villains at the start of a match. Other examples include picking Rocket Raccoon when your team has a Groot, which allows for the mouthy rodent to literally add bark to his bite as he hops on his tree friend's back and rains fire down from there, granting him incoming damage reduction.
Ready for a boost?
It encourages smart team construction without leaving characters behind or feeling guilt-tripped by others for not matching their incessant requests to team up. Add these synergistic systems to the much appreciated lack of stun lock abilities, and Marvel Rivals really sings when the wheels are in motion. This is a hero shooter that wants you to liberally use the powers it grants, with barriers, both in a literal and metaphorical sense, coming at a premium. I was skeptical of the third-person gunplay at first, as traditionally I much prefer to be firing from a first-person perspective, but Rivals does a good job at keeping each weapon feeling distinct from one another and satisfying to wield.
You made your last mistake.